was exciting. Like, yeah, I don't really know how to explain it more than that. Like, everyone was into it, everyone was cheering for you, everyone wanted you to do well.
Well, this was our Leafs, this was our Canadians, this was our big-time team. It was the most exciting thing I've ever experienced as a local hockey fan.
You feel a part of it. You feel good for yourself, for your team, for your city, and you get caught up in it in a way that we never had that opportunity before.
I don't know if it's just the story of the team we had or the dynamic of the team we had, or just maybe it's just because it's a Cinderella story, I don't know.
For the first time in their 18-year history, the Belleville Bulls stand alone above all others in the Ontario Hockey League as the OHL champions.
That was the 18th year that the Belleville Bulls were in existence in the Ontario Hockey League, and they'd been in the final before. We'd been bridesmaids different times. And even the year before, the feeling was that 1998 team had all the pieces to go all the way, and especially after they steamrolled Peterborough in the first round of that previous year's playoffs. Belleville was favored, and they had home ice advantage, and out in the second round.
No one wanted it to end that way. And so I think the next year, everybody a lot of the same cast of characters was back, and everybody was kind of ready to go.
The easiest way to put it is you have to learn to lose before you win. And that was fitting to a T. And I know it was disappointing for the players that graduated, but the core of veterans that we had coming back, that was in the back of their minds.
We weren't a big team, but we were fast, we were quick, we got it done. We had some toughness, but we were a skating team.
I think that's why it was so effective, because everybody brought something different out onto the ice rather than just having, your first and second line being, 30, 40, 50 goal scorers. We had, Ryan Reddy, who almost 100 points that year, was just a hard-working, led by an example, and it just fueled everybody else underneath him.
We had good players right off the hop. I knew once Reddy came back and I saw Papineau and Chichu, I said, okay, we've got some superstars here.
You could tell right at the start that we had there was a good bunch of guys, good team. You could tell there was a lot of talent right off the bat.
They're a big group that, they played physical even though we were in a big barn. They helped me out a lot because we had some veteran guys that, would, not just from a standpoint of playing the game, but just, things like communicating. I remember they were, good communicators, would, help me and tell me, what to do. They never let anyone come near me.
We were able to carry the puck and control it, which helped the D to get up into the play and help, with Jason Lawmaster and those guys with some physical play. We started, being a threat at the end of the year.
Brando Mezai, the big Slovak, he was just so tough to get around, and but we always look at Lawmaster, who had that great combination of, he had a great first pass. He could jump into the rush, very good defensively, and he was a little bit crazy too. So teams were a little afraid of him in their end. He was disciplined at the same time. He could look at a guy and they kind of knew, okay, this is not a guy to be messed with. So he was a real key component.
It was a work in progress the whole year, and once they bought into, all of them had talent, and they all had the way of doing their own little job on the ice. Kelly had soft hands. Nick, his toughness. Jason probably do whatever he wanted out there.
There's a lot of rookies. We maybe not all played, but I think there's like 10 or 11 of us on that team. And they molded us into, the players we ended up being. So it was a great experience.
It was a new thing we were trying out where when we drafted these players, people were like, oh my God, did you ever make a mistake? These guys are too small, this is a big league. And I said, well, there's players that can skate, and if these players can skate in this big ice surface, it's gonna help us big time when it comes through the longevity of the 66 or 68 game schedule.
It was exciting. I think our team that year was exciting. We had a little bit of everything. We weren't just a defensive team. We weren't just a scoring team. We could do anything, basically.
There was a real enthusiasm around this team, and you got the feeling from this team that they would eat nails if it meant that they were going to be successful. They would do whatever it took to stand up for their buddy on the team, and they were a real team. It was real fun to be around them.
Ryan Reddy, I think, was the real cement. Just a down-to-earth guy. Came back for his OA season to be captain when he could have turned pro, and bought in right away to what Louis wanted to do and sold it to the other guys. Just an approachable captain, treated everybody the same, and I think the kids really liked that too, and then that just trickled down for the rest of the older players down to the kids.
He was a great leader. I mean, he was just a great personality. He always had a smile on his face. He always came to the rink to work. He was your consummate captain. He was tough, he could play, and he demanded respect. And you couldn't ask for more in a captain. Like, he was excellent.
Ryan Reddy's a solid player, great leader, and great in the corners, tough. Gets a lot of room for you out there. Like back then you kind of needed that. That was before the new rules came in. So he had a little chip on his shoulder, and it was always nice to play with him. He always came out of the corner with the puck, and was able to get it to us.
He was the heart and soul of the team, in my opinion. Here I am, just turned 17, and I look at this guy and I go, that's a man. And he commanded respect. But he also gave it. He was extremely nice to the rookies. He was the best captain I've ever had, by far. He really took our team, I believe, to the next level.
When Ryan Reddy spoke, you listened more, because he was the leader, but he treated everyone the same, right? He treated everyone the same, and on and off the ice. And he's kind of one of those leaders where if he has to stand up in front of the group, you've done something wrong.
I've seen a lot of other teams where there's cliques and there's these people do that and these people do that. Reddy, he was just, he made everybody feel like part of the team right away, and he had everyone doing everything together.
It was kind of a unique team. We were always kind of together, and even I was the older guy, and I liked hanging out with the younger guys because they were energetic and they were fun, and it was exciting for them, a lot of this stuff. And it was before social media or anything like that, or video games. So we had to create our own fun.
We ate together, we hung out together. Obviously, we played together. Movie nights, Tuesday nights, it was 20 guys strong. Bowling nights, it was truly a team.
We were able to be kids, because we were all, 16 to 19, go be kids. But when it was game time, it was time to be here for hockey. And the ownerships and the coaching staff allowed us to do that, with our captains sort of overseeing it, and it worked.
We loved to score. I mean, we had a lot of guys on that team that could put the puck in the net, and every game we wanted to go, and everybody was kind of competing with each other, everybody wanted to score, and we were all friends on that team. It was a good team atmosphere to be a part of, and guys were just in it to play for one another.
You can go through any team in the history of hockey. You got to be close, and it's a team that does everything together wins together.
These guys came to play every night. They loved the game of hockey, and to be behind the bench to actually put these guys on was a treat.
When Lou Crawford took over as the coach of the Bulls, you could sense that there was a whole new enthusiasm around the team. And everybody around the team was involved. It was one of those kind of epidemic kind of things.
Everybody had a great level of respect for Louis. And work ethic. He was there early in the morning. He was there after practice. He put in his time, and he's a likable guy. I mean, what was there for the players to complain about? He was a good communicator, and he had Freddie helping out with the blue line and doing a great job with the defense. So Louis was able to focus on the forwards, and the cycle game from that team was incredible.
Lou's intensity of watching the game and analyzing and everything, and the wheels were just constantly going.
The great things about Lou is going back to, he might be in your face, but he'd also be your biggest supporter. If you were down, he'd pick you up. If you were up and he felt like he had to knock you down, he'd knock you down. He knew how to get the best out of everybody.
Fred was more of a prankster and a jokester, and I think, with the kids in the room, Fred would break up that tension and things of that sort, and yet Fred was a very good defensive coach.
Freddie offered some levity too. He was funny. I mean, Freddie had always come up with something funny at practice, and yeah, he was a great guy to have around.
I was the good cop, Louis was the bad cop. We could work off each other, and results speak for themselves. Even though you're working as a team, everybody is an individual. Everybody has a different personality, and you have to get those personalities and everybody on the right page. And Lou managed to do that.
The mentorship of Freddie Boimstruck and Dave Stott, Jamie Pringle, and the coaching staff was amazing. And again, somebody had to be the bad guy. That was me. But hopefully they all, benefited from it.
Louis and Lozzie had a really interesting relationship. And I think he was a regular visitor to Lou's office, not necessarily being in trouble, but I think they talked a lot that year, and I think they had a lot in common. But there were also some, a little bit of headbutting going on too.
I knew he was a bit of a rebel, and I love rebels. I love guys that, push the buttons a little bit just to keep me, more importantly, on edge. And Jason did a great job of keeping me on edge. I loved him to this day. Didn't really necessarily tell him that, when we were in the playing days, but I think he appreciated it. He brought that mentality of no nonsense. He's a bit of a loose cannon, which you can use that to your advantage, and we did. And once Jason understood his role, he was a huge part of our success.
He was just hard to play against, right? And that's what he had to do to be good, right? He needed to be hard to play against. He didn't need to rush the puck all the time, but he needed to be a tough defender.
With Michael Jacobson, I know he appreciated it, and he used to tell me all the time, and I would laugh. Because everybody would be so worried about me, he could just do what he wanted to do, which was a positive. I'm not talking about fighting or anything like that, but just I had a lot of good conversations when I was playing on the ice with opponents, and all the time. So they knew I was out there.
Corey Campbell came in as a rookie goaltender and really stood on his head for us.
It was a real pleasant surprise to have a rookie goaltender come in and compete the way he did. I mean, that's just not something that happens all the time. He definitely kept us in some games that we needed to win.
I remember thinking there wasn't much room for me. We started playing games, and I ended up on a team, and I was against, I don't know how they made the teams, but I had Chichu and Papineau on the other team against me, I remember, and I got shelled. So at that time I was like, okay, it's over. Like, I'm not gonna make it this year. But anyway, they kept stringing me along, and as I kept playing in training camp, I started to get used to the pace. It was fairly new to me because coming out of midget, now I'm playing against guys that are NHL draft picks. I got into a couple exhibition games, and then it just so happens that I ended up making the club.
When Corey took over in goal, it was kind of a question mark, but I think he played against Ottawa the one night, and he just came in and stood on his head, and he just kind of went from there.
Corey wanted to play, man. This guy got upset when pucks went by him in warm-up, let alone practice. And again, it was a competitive instinct, and goaltending is a huge barrier, and if it's not on target, then you're not going to have the success. And we were riding Corey, and Corey did a fantastic job to do everything in his power because of that competitive instincts.
When I was here, everyone talked about our rival was Kingston and that stuff, but it seemed to be, it was always Ottawa. We'd play them 4 times in the preseason, then we play them 10 times during the year, then we always seemed to play them in the playoffs, and it just seemed like we always kind of matched up and they were good games.
And it made for some pretty lively games and lots of penalties, and it just didn't matter how things worked out.
I hated Ottawa, that's for sure. 100%. I did not like them at all. You know, and they had a good team. They were gritty. You know, they had some gritty players. Konopka, Galbraith, Talbot would get in your face. You know, Boynton, he was at the first year. Mark Bell. So they had some top line guys.
There was never an easy game, and it didn't matter if it was in our rink or their rink. 2.5 hours down the highway, and I think it's a rivalry. Whenever you're that close to a team, it always seemed like you would play 10 games in the season against each other, and then you would play a playoff series against each other. How do you not build a rivalry? It was pretty interesting and a lot of fun.
Maybe it was just the style we played against the style they played, or I don't know. But for some reason, you know, we seemed to have good battles against them, and we seemed to have a fair bit of success against them.
That year, for some reason, it seemed like every time we played Ottawa that we, at least personally to myself, and I think for most of the guys in the room, we had a chance to win every time we stepped on the ice with them.
They were a star-studded team, and we had a little bit to prove, I think, and play a little rougher against them.
Oh, those games were always exciting to come in and play, right? Like, especially playing your hometown, you always get up a little bit more, and you want to do well, right? And I felt like that it grew that year as 2 teams. Were fighting for a champ. Like they were ranked number 1 that year. It just heated up, and there was some bad blood. Like we didn't like each other going into that rink. So we wanted to give it to them. They wanted to give it to us. So it was fun.
I don't know if it was the barber poles. I don't know if it was. I think it was Brian Kilray. If you listen to the crowd, a man who has accomplished so much and is so well respected in the community, the fans. It was a hate thing with the fans with him, and I think he fed into it. And I think he would do things to incite the fans more because he was so clever of a hockey guy. But it was always Ottawa. It was those Ottawa 67, and that's how I announce it. Next home game for the Bulls is this Saturday against those Ottawa 67s. So you could just hear the murmur.
I remember Jim Halton telling me one time he played for the Kitchener Rangers, and he said when you played Belleville on a Saturday night, the bus was great until you got to about Coburg, and then there was that sudden hush that started coming down on the bus. By the time they pulled into the sports center, the bus was silent because they knew they were in Belleville on a Saturday night, and they were going to have their hands full to get going on things.
With the Yardmen, you have to be able to adjust to the other team's arena, and because we're playing half our games in smaller rinks, it's easier for us. The other teams are playing 95% of their games in small rinks. They come to the Yardmen, and it's a totally different game. It was a huge advantage. Yeah, even later on in my career as well. Like you could really turn, Nate Robinson and Papin and Chizo, you can really turn D around there, and you're gone.
We loved Belleville, and we wanted to be here, and the fans that came out were all regular season. We had a good crowd, and then playoffs. We wanted to do it for everybody, and just having that, it's like the 6th man on the ice, and those fans were crazy out there.
When you weren't at the rink, everyone just kind of bled the Bulls colors, and then being at the rink there in playoffs and just seeing how full that arena was.
You really couldn't go anywhere or do anything without somebody coming up and wanting to talk hockey.
Yeah, and you got to know these players because they lived in your community, and you knew them. You'd see them around, and you just kind of knew them, and you'd be at certain community events together and all that kind of thing. So it really felt like it was not just your team, but your family.
And that's all people talked about. Belleville Bulls, no matter where you went, that's all I heard. That's all I heard other people talking about. And you just get this sense of pride.
It was just like everywhere you went in the community, whether it was the grocery store or the gas station, everybody wanted to talk about what was happening with the team. It was amazing.
Belleville people just were as much of a part of the team as the players and us. I don't know a community that really absorbed a hockey team the way Belleville did in that time frame.
We had pretty high octane offense too, especially when teams came into play in Belleville. I think it was overwhelming for teams because we were fast, we knew how to play here, we had a lot of offense, so you could kind of, if you wanted to concentrate on one line, the other lines would have success.
They were learning and having fun, and the confidence level was getting higher and higher and higher, and they were sticking together as a team.
It just seemed to click after Christmas, and we kind of sat down and said, hey, look, if we're going to do this, it's the time to do it, right? And it just, you know, it just went from there, and it just rolled, and then rolled right into playoffs. We were getting it done, and we were having fun doing it, and we weren't worried about the points. What we were worried about is one game at a time to get to our goal. Already was a hard-nosed work, blue-collar guy that got in the corners all the time, right? Like he was a crash and back guy, and you just give the puck to Cheech in the slot, and he's gonna bury it, right? Like, he did it in the NHL for a couple of years where, he scored 60-some goals. He's doing something. He's a goal scorer.
Having Papineau's speed and his shot too, I think we just all kind of complemented each other, and, we were able to, expose the other team.
That was my game, right? Is move the puck and move it to him, and he scored a lot of goals. He was just a big boy with that big shot.
Continue to press. Ready behind the net, centering, G2, scores!
Belleville always did have that underdog tag, and that's one of those classic, almost considered mismatches that newspaper guys love. You could always write about it. The big city, urban, slick team against the Hicks from down the road in the, rink that's, 6,000 seats fewer than the Civic Center and that type of thing.
I remember going into the series against Ottawa and there being some underlying tones that they weren't looking forward to playing Belleville. We had played well against them all year. We'd been successful against them, winning record against them. And, I think it goes to coaching that the preparedness going into that series was outstanding. And they found ways to make the system work to beat that club.
There's always a couple of teams that give you a hard time during the year, and I think it was us giving Ottawa, and I don't think they really wanted to play us come playoffs, but it just fell that way.
Seemed like Ottawa had a lead in almost every single game. And the guy that was killing them, game in, game out with the late goals, was Ryan Reddy. He'd score in the final minute of a game, or 2 minutes left, or if it went to overtime, it seemed like Ryan was at the forefront of all the big goals that were scored. And so, in as much as Belleville always seemed to be chasing the game, they had the confidence that they could catch it and they could win it.
The first game, it was kind of, we went up there and we were kind of not playing the way we could. I think everyone was like, really, they're not that good, so. And then as it went, we came back here and we won, and then we just kept winning, and we ended up winning in overtime there in Game 5 to beat them out. I just remember Jason shooting the puck on Jason Lawmaster. He kind of held the blue line, and we cycled the puck. It kind of came out, shot on net, and just a rebound.
Belleville won those overtime games, and that was the difference in that series. But just the whole notion that Belleville could knock Ottawa out, not that they needed additional adrenaline to drive them through this series, but every game was tooth and nail.
It was very rewarding for our players to seize the moment, but more importantly, here we go back to the veterans where they said, okay, we beat them, let's go now see what else we can do.
I liked that series a lot because covering a team and traveling with them, you feel part of that emotion as it builds, and you could just really feel all of a sudden, hey, something's happening here. And I mean, they really started to believe that they had a special opportunity. And it was a lot of fun, too, to kind of tick Ottawa off because they were shocked when they lost and very angry. And they knew they had to sit around for, 6 weeks before the Memorial Cup. So they were not a bunch of happy campers. And obviously being division rivals, yeah, I think in Belleville people felt rather happy about that.
We had a very vocal crowd. The stuff that would go towards the ice, the hex sign, you could just tell how the players into the team were bothered by the intimidation of the fans. And that was, it takes you back to the old Memorial days.
Hex was amazing in playoffs.
Yeah, this pull, it came up over the glass and this flag hung about, like literally you could hit it with, the goalie could hit it with a stick. And he would hang it there and go like this the whole game.
That tambourine would be almost an inch away from the goalie's head, and sometimes I think would screen him on certain shots.
That would bug the crap out of me as the other goalie, right?
It was huge. It was like an ordeal to get into the rink. And then when we scored, or when he was doing his thing with the goalie, whatever, he had to displace fans who were paying whatever to line up 6 deep, and he's pushing people aside to get the stupid hexing. And normally people are like, hey, that's my spot. But no, it's the hacks. Okay, you can go. Anybody else, you know, the Prime Minister could have walked it through and he would have been shut out. There's no way the hacks is going to get shut out. He was getting to the glass of that stupid thing for sure.
You couldn't wait for the next game. People couldn't wait for the next game. I couldn't wait to do the broadcasts. It was just one of those things where you become part of it. And it's a great story and it's a great feeling.
Everywhere you went during the day, you just almost felt like you were floating on this. It was like an emotional buzz that you knew wasn't going to last, but let's ride it right to the end, and then we'll just collapse and sleep for a couple of days, and then reality returns. So it was a ton of fun. And there were signs all over town. Guys who had signs like in bars and their marquees, and even the buses had "Go Bulls, Go!" and the whole community was just absolutely behind that effort. It was really fun to be part of it.
It just seemed to roll from the end of the year into the playoffs, and we were just steamrolling teams, and it felt like we have a good chance going into London now.
I was pumped for that series just because it was in my backyard, right? I'd grown up watching highlights and, you know, seeing the Knights and stuff like that. I think we knew that we had the team that could take them down. It was just a matter of doing it.
I just remember their depth. You know, Rika Fata just came back from the NHL during that season, and, you know, look at their roster of how many guys went on to play, you know, in the NHL or just even in pro hockey. So we knew that it was going to be a good series and a hard-fought series.
They were a lot like us because they had upset Plymouth.
We knew that they had some fast players. We knew that they had some goal scorers. They had Tommy Kostopoulos, who was a good leader, much like a Ryan Reddy. So we knew we were up against a tough challenge, and the coaching of Gary Agnew was unspeakable. I mean, he was a very successful coach, and we knew that our battles were going to be tough.
They came out and they won the first game. I remember I wasn't too thrilled with my own play that game though. So we had lost, we're down 1-0, but at the same time, I kind of knew that if I stepped my game up, then things would come together, because I don't think I was very good that first game at all.
And I was praying like crazy that these players would reflect back and go back into the memory bank. I remember about losing against Plymouth and how important it is to win on the road.
It was always tough playing at the Ice House because, you know, it was old school, something to a slap shot almost.
I hated it. I've never once liked walking into that rink. I didn't like it from the way the ice felt to the way the fans were on top of you. They were loud. The shaky glass, every time you got hit into it, it was like whiplash every time. But that was the hockey, and it brought a lot of fun to the game.
It was packed. Everyone wore white. It was so loud. Like, it was the loudest rink I think I've ever played in. Like, it felt like everyone was on top. Yeah.
It was an intimidating arena, you know, and they played an intimidating style. It was hot. The dressing rooms were old and crummy. You know, it was like a sweatbox. So it was quite the atmosphere. That's for sure.
The Ice House was a fabulous. I loved that place. It kind of reminded me of Memorial Arena. You're on top of the ice, tight confines, and the crowd was just incredibly loud.
The media's job is to tell a story, but it helps us too for getting attention on the product and the game too. And I think the Intel and Belleville did a great job of selling the team and telling stories.
I predicted that the Bulls would win game 5 tonight. That was in that day's paper. And I said they can start planning the parade now.
I went, oh my God, there it is. They've said it. The curse is on. But, the gentleman, Paul Swoboda, who is a tremendous friend of mine, and again, what a warrior for being in the Ontario Hockey League, and I love Paul to this day. And he wanted nothing more to win. And but again, it was said, and it was in the back of the mind, and it kind of haunted us a little bit. And, you know, we wanted it bad, just as bad as he did, but we just couldn't, for whatever reason, finish it off.
Of course, London won Game 5, and we go back to London, and on a very quiet bus ride to London. You got to remember, in those days, the media sat right behind the coaches, so Louis right in front of me, and he's not saying a word. And London wins Game 6. So I remember on the way back from London, and wow, it's really quiet now. So after my goofy column, they've lost 2 games, and we're going home for Game 7, and I'm just sitting there going, sheesh, you know. I remember Louis turned around, he goes, "Can I ask you something?" And he'd never said anything until then, and I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Why would you write that?" I remember that's how he said it. "Why would you write that?" And I looked at him, I said, "Geez, Louis," I said, "I just really thought you guys were going to win." And he said, "Well, so did I." And he said, "But didn't you think they were going to like wallpaper their dressing room with that column?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess so." And then he kind of looks at me and goes, "Maybe I should have done ours too."
Belleville, I think, got overconfident after they took that 3-1 series lead. Things kind of began to go London's way, and they got a hold of games 5 and 6 and beat Belleville to force that 7th game.
The first half of the series kind of was our way, and then they kind of took over, so kind of got the momentum going their way for the last like 2 or 3 games.
It's just one of those things where you try and stay kind of even keel. I remember those games though, like the first couple games, Rico Fata didn't play his greatest, and then all of a sudden he started to wind it up, and we were like, oh. And you could see it kind of turning. He played really good the Game 5, and then played really good in Game 6.
When they score and that building goes crazy, you know, they got momentum, and you know, they took it to us there. So, you know, we fought back, and you know, we gave it a go. I don't know if we got a little bit ahead of ourselves, and they came back, right?
You're riding high, and I think for a little bit of time we kind of forgot what the ultimate goal was, and we didn't let it slip away, but we gave it back a couple of games.
Everyone thinks that, you know, we got up early on them and we relaxed. Those games were all very intense, and it could have went either way.
Once you lose that Game 6, then all of a sudden it's a 1-game shootout, right? You know, your knuckles are a little white, and then it's kind of like, all right, boys, like, we don't have any more cushion, like, we have to do it now. I mean, obviously it was really nice that Game 7 was at home, but at the same time, Game 7, anything can happen.
There's never a given that you're gonna win. I mean, you've always got to come ready to play, you've always got to compete, and you know, we saw it happen. The door gets cracked open a little bit, and next thing you know, you're facing a Game 7.
Going back for Game 7. Certainly the momentum is in London's favor.
It was a very quiet bus ride back to Belleville. Just a quiet ride. I think they were thinking about it, and wasn't a whole lot of words said, good, bad, or otherwise. I think they decided, hey, we blew an opportunity to get it done early. Now we got to get it done in Game 7.
If we would have said at the start of the year, we got to win 1 game to go to the Memorial Cup, everyone would have been pretty excited. And I think that's kind of the mindset you got to get into. You got to try and find the positives you can, and then obviously you go into Game 7.
I wanted it more than anything for my father. He loved the team, he loved the players, and he'd been close. And, you know, convincing him to make some changes to try and get us to that next level, I really wanted to show that, hey, we're going to do it. We're going to get this job done. We're going to get you the championship that you've always wanted.
Knowing that we had the whole town behind us, and the buzz and the energy was phenomenal.
It was crazy. I remember when I couldn't sleep the night before, as I'm sure many people couldn't sleep the night before. It was really something amazing.
The city was just on pins and needles. The atmosphere in the arena was unbelievable.
I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous and I was scared. I really was. It was Game 7.
People were nervous, I think. The diehards were, for sure. But they were out in full force with their banners and, you know, screaming positives at the kids when they came out for the warm-up. So fans were behind them right away. There was nobody sitting quietly.
I remember not sleeping the night before, and Freddie Boimstruck and we lived basically beside each other. And we were kind of at our wits' end, like, you know, what do we got to do here? And I remember going in, and we had talked, and had a few pops to try and figure up and loosen up our memory here, our working gears. And we had a whole kind of strategy to get these guys prepared for Game 7 at home. And we got into the arena for our pregame speech, pregame prep, and we had it all written down. And we went, and we ripped it up, and I put down an initial on the board, for the whiteboard, where we usually have our, okay, this is who you're going to match up against, this is what they're going to do on the power play, etc. And then Freddie went up, and he put down an initial. That was our game plan for the entire Game 7 at home, was to play for that person. They were taking all the lessons that they've learned from when they first put on a pair of skates to where we were today in that moment. And I think that's what motivated them to go out. No coaching involved. It was just go.
His message was, you know, when you don't feel like you can give any more or you can't do it, you know, you can look at that and hopefully it'll push you over the top. It was definitely a memorable moment.
It worked, you know, at that time, and it was the right call, and it was good. Cheech and I and Reddy, and we're like, well, we got to get her done, right? Our backs were against the wall at that point where, hey, we're not going to, you know, be down 3-1 and lose this. So, you know, it was a little bit nerve-wracking after being tied 3-3, and at least we were going home, though.
How many times do you dream about it when you're playing on your outdoor rink, about playing in a Game 7 and being able to, you know, leave your mark?
Playoffs tonight, the singular most important game in the history of either franchise. The Bulls and the Knights, Game 7, the OHL final. Good evening. I'm Jack Miller along with Tom Gavey, and welcome to what will be our final telecast of the season, what will be the final game in the Ontario Hockey League this season, but both teams obviously want to go on.
Keep our land glorious and free.
And I remember going for the big, big note at the end, and I'm just blowing my lungs out and blowing my throat out, and my voice cracks in the middle of the last word, you know, and I'm going, oh, you know, but it just felt great. And I remember Paul Svoboda saying that he thought that I was going to absolutely blow up. He said it was just so exciting.
We had a good game plan going into Game 7, and I felt like once we scored our first goal and got our second one, that it was, once we got up 3-0 or whatever it was, you could feel like the tides were turning and they were just kind of pulling it in and and nothing seemed to go right for them that day.
It's our rink. Let's play our game, and we came out flying, and we came ready to play, and backs to the walls, and got to get it done. You know, and we did it.
It was jam-packed. I think we might have been a little over capacity.
I don't remember how many people they announced as being in the Quinte Sports Center. Whatever they announced, it wasn't what was there. There was hundreds and hundreds of others that were there. Plus, they had the Wally Dever Arena set up, and they had monitors, and they were showing it live there.
It was just really exciting. Everyone was there. Everyone was cheering for you. It was like, I don't know, it wasn't like we were just playing for us. It was like we were playing for everyone.
We worked hard too, and we were playing well together. We weren't playing scared. We were playing with confidence, and we knew our team, what our team was capable of, especially at home with big ice. You know, like it was tough to contain us.
Game 7 underway as Mike Jacobson brings it into the London zone. He comes around the net on the backhand, turns, dumps it off the boards. Campbell behind the net, centering. Crawford, point blank shot right on, and the Bulls came oh so close. Right off the bat, Jacobson back on an icing touch-up, and the Bulls executing beautifully off the opening face-off.
There was so much interest, it was so much fun, but drama, there wasn't any. There may have been pre-game, there may have been up through the first period, but after that, it was a matter of time, and just how decisive Belleville was in that final game, that was something.
I think these guys came back and knew they were the better team. They could get the job done, and the foot was on the gas from the drop of the puck, and it never let up.
We just went at them, and there was no stopping us at all.
shoots it, scores! Deflected in front by Chichu. Chichu on the loose puck and across the line. Oh, it's a nice dig by Houston. Takes it up and scores! Chichu, hat-trick! Instead of time to run for the goal. Chichu scores! How about that? Chichu, he's bossed down the puck up there. Ball down. Belleville still on it. Chichu in front of the net.
That's the perfect hockey game. When you can come out and play 60 minutes, winning shift by shift, it's the perfect hockey game.
Who's going to forget anybody scoring 5 goals in a playoff game? Any game, let alone a playoff game. And there's Jonathan Chichu, and he's just writing his own history with the Belleville Bulls and the Ontario Hockey League.
Scoring 5 goals is crazy. And in a Game 7, even crazier. Jonathan Chichu, I guess the best thing about him was reflecting back to when Floyd said, "Lou, we're taking this guy in the first round." Why? Because this guy comes to play, and he comes to play every night. He's got that fire in his eyes, he's got that competitive instinct, and the natural ability to score big goals. And was Floyd bang on that guy? And I'm so thankful that he was, one of our leaders in that Game 7.
It felt like everything I touched had a chance to go in, like it didn't matter where I was shooting from.
I never heard the volume was loud, and being the guy that does the music and doing the announcing and playing the horn after every goal, it was just, the entire building was electric, just electric. Never heard anything like it. You couldn't hear yourself think of that building.
You felt like a little rock star at the time, right? No matter what your part was, it was pretty cool to be a part of that, for sure.
It seemed like the crowd just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger because you knew there was going to be a celebration. When Chichu scored his 3rd, the roof blew off the place, but when he scored his 4th and then his 5th, it was bedlam in there, and there were literally a sea of humanity. It was hot, I remember. It was sweaty in there, but man, everybody was excited.
I remember in between periods, the one I come out to, I think I needed to get a roll of tape from Paul, and I said, can I get some tape? And he had the hair dryers, and he was drying off Doc because he was sweating so bad, because it was in early, it would have been in May, and he's like, Doc's just and he was like, shh.
I started to kind of feel a little more comfortable, more around the 10-minute mark of the 3rd, where I think it was priority or 8-9-2 or whatever it was. At that time, you're kind of just counting the clock down very slowly. But it's surreal really until the buzzer goes. Even when the buzzer goes, it's kind of surreal. Until you actually look back and think of it, because on the ice after, and it's just a whirlwind.
When that buzzer went, we were pretty excited to get on that ice, right, and hoist that cup that year. The high fives and the crying and the tears of joy, right, were undescribable. It was a great feeling for us.
The whole time your heart was just racing and pounding. It didn't matter. I could have cared less if I got 1 shift or if I got 15 shifts a period. It was, okay, let's go, let's win this.
Winning at home in Game 7 like that against London, that's something you'll never get out of your mind, especially even when you go back to the rink today. Just kind of remembering how it all unfolded. First Chichu gets 1, gets 2, 3, and you're like, no way he's getting any more, and then 4 and 5, and just the atmosphere in that building and just kind of how the energy was throughout the town.
This game is over. For the first time in their 18-year history, The Belleville Bulls stand alone above all others in the Ontario Hockey League as the OHL champions. Belleville Bulls are the 1998-99 OHL champions. And now on to Ottawa.
It was pretty magical, really. Especially for me, I'd been there for 4 years and gone through a lot of ups and downs, and especially the disappointment the year before, to know that like all your hard work kind of paid off and you finally won. It was good.
You're just kind of looking around, like pinching yourself, seeing all the people you know, all your family, all your friends there, and then jumping on the ice to celebrate with that group of guys is something that you don't forget today.
The building erupted, the fans were crazy, like we had never won a championship there, and it was a great feeling. It still gives me goosebumps at, talking about it, right?
It's hard to describe, what you're actually feeling, and it's hard to actually, process things at the time it's actually happening, which is too bad. Like, when you look back, you'd want to just think, try to take it in a little bit more, but it was nice. It was an incredible experience. Like, it's one of those life experiences that you'll just never forget and you'll take with you forever, and no one can ever take it away from you.
Just to jump on the ice and hear the roar of the crowd was fantastic. And I've seen the video a couple times, and I actually remember doing it. It's something that I haven't forgotten.
It was just chills, and we couldn't wait just to get on the ice and be able to show it and be with the fans. We talked to the fans quite a bit while we're out there, or during the season, right? And the excitement that we knew that we were bringing for them also by winning a championship, it was really fun.
I think you saw our true team, where there wasn't anybody left out. Everybody was high-fiving and hugged, and there wasn't just one person sort of off in the background. And again, the coaching staff gave that to us.
It was loud, it was electric, it was just a great feeling. And, I saw my dad out there, and the first time he grabbed the trophy was pretty gratifying. That was a really special thing for me.
It's not often you win. I mean, that was my only time that I've won in at the higher levels, So for me, it was something special. It's kind of that feeling, where like it's kind of you're floating. It's a different type of feeling. It gets you. It's almost like a little high. You're excited, and everybody's jumping up and down. The building was going crazy, and it was something I'll always remember.
The goal was to win that championship, right? And there's not too many guys that get to say we won a championship in the OHL, so that was a great honor.
It's kind of surreal when that stuff happens, and you wish you could kind of pause it, but it just kind of goes so fast. When we got to the dressing room, the fans wouldn't leave. They just kept cheering and cheering. So there's like an encore. We'd come out and then they wouldn't leave. And at one point, I think Justin, he just grabbed the mic and said, "If you want to see us, come on down." And then everyone just it was like a train into the dressing room. It was a lot of fun. And we did it up Belleville style too.
I remember being in the room. I remember a ton of people in the room and sticks walking out the door and so forth. So I wondered if we were going to have any equipment left to play in the Memorial Cup.
I had a bunch of family and friends at the game, and after we got in the room, everybody, it was just, if you've been on a championship team, everybody's having some fun there. But at the end of the game, it was emotional.
That's the nice thing about such a small town team, the interaction and everyone feeling some part of that victory for sure.
Definitely I was thinking about Doc and Brad and how long the team had been their family, and and all the heartbreak. You know what I mean? Even like when I was younger as a kid kind of following the team, and heartbreak, like just getting so close, whatever, and to watch, I use the word euphoria, watch the pure genuine joy in their eyes, like this was their team that they sacrificed so much for, when they'd finally done it. It was like, it's pretty cool to see.
When you have an owner that cares so much, like Doc just didn't care about the hockey, like he cared about all the players. And he looked after you, like you could call him at any time and he would help you. Like he was such a great owner, and it was really, like I'm really glad I was a part of helping him get the championship.
My wife Sherry, and there was a picture that was captured, and I don't know who gave it to us, but to see on her face the the emotion, the drain of knowing that we set a goal and we got it, we achieved it. In that particular moment, winning the championship, the Robertson Trophy in our hometown, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. But to be able to share it, I mean, it was special.
Crawford raises the cup and draws perhaps the loudest cheer.
I remember at the start of the year, like I said with Louis, I said my goal is the Memorial Cup, and I wasn't thinking at that time, but then I got thinking at the end, I'm like, yeah, like we're here now. And then you watch it on TV every year, and it's hard to believe that you're actually there. I mean, it might have been a little different for the older guys on the team, but I went from midget to now starting in the Memorial Cup, and it was pretty surreal. But at the same time, you're trying to get your head on straight.
The Ottawa 67s were referred as the Bank Street Bullies because they came in fresh, they came in healthy, they had 5 weeks off after Belleville had eliminated them, and so they were using that to their advantage, and not just with Belleville, they did it with Acadie Bathurst, they did it with Calgary, and as much as they were trying to outmuscle them and brutalize them as much as they could, and they were doing the same thing to Belleville. So all that week you already had that thing going on with Ottawa.
I truly believe that if we had a healthy roster, that we would have won that tournament. I just think the way we were playing, I don't think teams could have really played with us. I think we had probably one of the deepest teams there, if not the deepest. So it's kind of, it's bittersweet.
Where it really hit me was when it was done, where we didn't win. That was the hardest part. Knowing we should have. Once we got beat out there, I was in tears. Worse than the kids. Because they should have won.
Do I think if we were all healthy and could have had as much time off as Ottawa did, would we have been a better team? I think so. But that kind of takes the fun out of it too. Like, we went in the trenches, we battled with each other. We went through each series, and then, you know, we played our best. Really, I thought we did the best we could there, and, you know, we just lived with the outcome.
Sure, it would have been great to win a Memorial Cup, but these guys were winners from day one in my mind. I would have taken our chances in a 7-game series against any of those teams, because I think these kids had the character to find a way to win a 7-game series.
And already plans were being made for a parade and a rally on the Market Square to honor the OHL champions and the fact they made the Memorial Cup. Ross McDougall was the mayor, and they had put together a neat parade, and it was so well attended. We gathered there, and fans were delirious, and the players were just shocked that even though they lost in the semifinals of the Memorial Cup, that the appreciation being shown by the fans was still as tight as it was, as if they had won it.
We lose in a Memorial Cup, and they're still coming out to support us. And, you know, flocks in the streets. We have, you know, the party downtown. We have a small little parade, and it's people everywhere.
They were all excited. They hadn't had a champion there in the whole time, and you know, we were able to do that. The first ones being that is you know, pretty special, and you know, having those fans there to celebrate with you, you know, they were there all year watching us and cheering us on, and then you know, being able to kind of hang out with them and you know, show them we appreciate it too, because that's you know, it was really a town win.
To see the support that this city had was absolutely amazing, and I can't thank Belleville enough for putting me through my teen years with the support like that.
Just a final goodbye to the fans who supported us all season, even our ups and our downs. It was great to be out there in the atmosphere of, you know, the little kids sitting around there, and it makes me think about it. You know, hopefully one day, you know, my little guy now will be able to experience something like that. And I think Belleville's such a unique city, small enough but big enough, and you feel a part of the family, and you could see how important it was to the city that what we did. We like to build, you know, say our last goodbyes.
A particular year was something else, and that particular playoff and that particular victory was, it was electrifying. It really truly was.
Thinking back 20 years when you're 19 or 18, you don't see it like that. But sitting here now, you're going, we were just a bunch of kids having fun. And we were given that opportunity to do that, which a lot of kids don't get.
One of the best times of my life was my time spent in Belleville and playing on that team, and it is special.
Working as a group, getting the job done, they all bought into it. That's all I can say. And that was nice to see as a coach.
The atmosphere was one of pride and relief. It was quite a feat for us to win a championship, to be the best team in Ontario in the junior ranks, junior A ranks. You know, there wasn't too many unhappy people, that's for sure. I mean, God bless the fans, I mean the fanatics, these people who come through the thick and thin. I was happy for them. You look up in the crowd, you see these people for years and years and years, and to see the expressions on their face was rewarding internally to me, you know. So they're a passionate group, they always were. Floyd had told me about them in my younger years, and to get a chance to see it firsthand was unbelievable.